You're listening to the Plain Talking UK podcast, the UK-based podcast written by a passenger for anyone. And here are your hosts, Carla Stebbings, Matt Smith and Neville Bounds.
Well, hello and welcome to episode number 185 of the Plain Talking UK podcast. I'm Carl Stebbings, and joining me, as always, in the kitchen studio this week is my co-host Matt Smith.
Hello, hello.
You right?
Yeah, sorry, I pressed the wrong button, so the
There's
sting,
a bit abrupt there.
The
Little bit
sting,
abrupt.
the stinger ended. Sorry.
Anyway, you're right, Matt.
Yes, I'll go and have a lie down. It'll be fine. Yeah, sorry.
You well?
Good
week?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I've had my first stressful week at the new job.
All right, okay.
Yeah, well, stressful week is a bit harsh. Stressful day.
Stressful day.
Yeah. Where people weren't delivering things when promised, which is always a bit stressful.
Oh, that's terrible.
Indeed.
Is that White Van Man?
It was White Van Man, funnily enough. Oh. Yes, absolutely. It was White Van Man. Yeah. It wasn't PT UK White Van Men.
No, not the TriStar van, because that's always on time.
Is it?
Yes.
Right. Okay.
So joining us, he's
so many jokes.
he's back with us again this week. He had a little weekend or a week off last week at the AV Awards, but he is back. So welcome back, our other illustrious co-host, Mr. Sir Neville Bounds.
Yes, hello there. Well, it was a very difficult weekend, I have to tell you, and it took some recovery. But no, I'm back and in full fettle, I'm pleased to say.
Full fettle is the way.
But I wouldn't have said that on Saturday nor Sunday, probably.
Right, I see.
Did you have too much lemonade, Nev?
Well, it's one of those things. There's 1,200 of us in the room, and most of us know each other as well. And yeah, you can just imagine.
Oh dear. So there's an awful lot of bubbles in that lemonade these days. I find it's not very good for you at all, is it?
Yes. Yeah. But very good, and lots of awards dished out. None coming to us, sadly, but we'll have another go next year.
Liz Piper has just said in the chat room, actually, she's very disappointed that Sir Neville of the Bounds, is not wearing his dinner jacket for PT UK this evening. She does have a point.
Yeah, I think it's got some gravy down it from last Friday, actually.
So we're going to welcome then all the listeners who've joined us this evening.
Nice full house again.
Nice full house again, yeah. Hello, Liz Piper. And our main man, the blue spanner of death, Micah, he's in the chat room. Mark Harvey is in the chat room. Andy Furlong. We've got Jen Niffer, she's in the chat room as well. Jeff Braithwaite. And who else? Let me just bring out the participant list. Here we go. Andrew Wilson
yes.
in the chat room.
Welcome, Andrew.
And Mark Harvey. I'm only missing anyone else out. No. But yes, welcome to you all who have joined us for tonight's show.
Exciting and shocking news, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, because Mr. Smith here is actually drinking beer. Look, you'll be very proud of me. Look,
he's drinking beer, everyone.
Yeah, it's sort of...
Just don't look at the word at the bottom that says alcohol-free.
Glaze over that. Yeah, this is what we like to refer to as a little special. What are you drinking this evening, sir?
An empty glass of beer.
An empty glass of beer. That's nice.
I had beer in earlier, trust me, before the show. Yeah.
Right. Nev, your tipple of choice for this evening?
Yes, it's a bit of a smoothie from Sainsbury's, but that was preceded by a couple of glasses of wine.
Oh, splendid.
Yay!
That's what we like to hear. So we're all suitably oiled.
That's hello, Lane. Lane Street. He's just popped in. Actually, we had
Richard
Don
King
Sebastian as well.
We did earlier.
Yeah, we had Don Sebastian.
Absolutely.
Hello, Richard.
Yep.
Yes, so we have got lots of news and stuff to get through this week. Okay. And we've also got another epic adventure with Nev for his passenger experience.
We have indeed.
And he's got, podcast royalty on with him this week.
Indeed. Stephen Ivey says, I need a beer, by the way.
Look at this.
See, this is the way forward. Yeah, absolutely. Now, this is what we call service. Look at this. A nice glass of wine brought by the lovely wife. Yeah. Thank you.
Lovely.
Gemma's going to have my glass of wine
for me
because I'm driving. So what particular brand is that, my dear?
It's better than last night's
What are we drinking?
It's a connoisseur Pinot Noir.
Oh, a Pinot Noir. Got a nice. Does that meet with your approval, Sir Nev?
Oh, it'll do. Yeah,
it'll do. Right.
Yeah.
It's quite nice.
Absolutely. Anyway, shall we stop talking about beer and alcohol?
And alcohol, yeah. So we've got, as I said, we've got lots of news stories to get through. We've got Nev's passenger experience, and we've also possibly got a couple of guests dropping in later on during the show. So we're, it's all good. But first, we have got some housework to clear up first.
Absolutely. Yeah, you're going to have to do it from your end, I'm afraid. I know what you're pointing at me for, but yeah.
Yeah, but we have got some housework to attend to this week. Housekeeping, yes,
absolutely.
to attend to this week.
It's that time of the month again. Oh, hello. That's it.
So
It's time to get out your piping slippers. And
piping slippers.
Yeah.
Is that when you're making a cake?
Something like that. It's
So
fun.
yeah,
It's
get your piping
pipe and
slippers.
slippers. Yeah.
Yeah.
Piping
And
slippers.
Nev.
Your smoking jacket, your comfortable shoes.
So Nev,
Sorry, Nev,
who
rescue
we
us, please. Abort.
who are we thanking this month again, Nev, for helping
We
with the
are
show?
thanking for your superb contributions Adrian Measham, Captain Jeff, Stephanie Plummer, Stuart Black, Liz Piper, Evan Shue, Adam Spink, Matt Donnemeyer, Jeff Ward, Ben Todd, York Mola, Philip Labe, Captain L, Andrew Wilson, Jeff Newman, Adam Spink again, Matthew Bunting Frame, Myla, Ryan Harper, Jenny Parkinson, Stuart Backer and Ray Williams. Thank you very much indeed, ladies and gents, for your superb contributions. They really do make a difference.
Yeah, as you all know, they go to support the show and help to pay for all the hosting fees and all the server fees. And also, one of the big things that we made an investment in this month, or last month I should say, September, was a nice shiny new video editing program which Matt is using to edit the show now and put all the bits and pieces together in lovely.
Owen's
clear.
allowed to do less now. I'm going to say blessing because he's been having to do it all for me. But so I'm doing some of it myself again. Now.
So we treated the show to the video editing software,
Carlos
and
has been spoiling me again.
apparently it's working very well, isn't it?
It
Matt?
is it's working very smoothly. A couple of examples of said editing will be demonstrated later on.
Oh, awesome. So thanks again to all our Patreon donators. Don't forget, if you want to donate to the show, if you can donate to the show, that would be awesome. Take yourselves over to the website, plaintalkinguk.com, and there's a link on there. You can click on Patreon if you want to become one of our donators, which is awesome.
You can do it by other means. Don't forget also you've got the Amazon link. The stinger will be played later on. But if you on our website, you'll notice there's actually an Amazon link. If you do your shopping through that particular link, then at no cost to you or us, basically, Amazon pays a small referral fee for any purchases that qualify. And I promise you that I don't look at what you're buying, so I have no idea what you're buying. It's all fine. Yeah, Captain Al, I'm looking at you. And yes, in answer to Liz's query, yes, it's not piping slippers. I did genuinely mean pipe and slippers. I'm sorry about that.
Yes, he doesn't pipe icing
pipe
through
slippers.
slippers onto cakes.
No, indeed,
not at all. No, so again, a massive thanks to everyone who's helped again with the show.
Very much
this
so,
month.
greatly appreciated.
Well,
do you know that faded perfectly?
I know.
Anyone would have thought that what we do is planned. He says lying.
Oh God!
Jenny in
Rome. Hello, Jenny, and
Jenny.
Dr. Steph is also in the chat room.
Isn't she supposed to be going to Chicago or something?
Yeah, she's doing some big marathon in Chicago.
Yeah.
Steph, Phil,
I want to know
away.
why she's not doing the New York marathon, because it's on when I'm there.
Oh, she is. She's running to see you, Matt.
Yeah, is she good?
Yeah.
Well, quite right. Absolutely, that is the way forward. So.
Well, we'll better kick things off, I suppose. So,
Mr. Richard Coburn has just retweeted our tweets.
Oh, that's very kind of him. Very kind of him.
God, what a decent fellow
What
he
a
is.
decent fellow he is. Absolutely. He was one of our guests on Nev's Passenger Experience,
Yeah.
wasn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah. Should we stop patting our
I
own
know.
backs now and do some work? Yeah,
So before we
absolutely.
start the news, then we are going to give a quick mention to everyone who's been affected by, obviously, the collapse of Monarch Airlines in the UK here. And we just want to send, our thoughts to all the staff and that and crew that's unfortunately been affected by
Obviously,
Monarch.
many of you will know that a very close friend of the show has been affected by that. But it's we haven't included it as a news story because obviously it has been doing the rounds.
Yeah.
So unless you've been stuck under a stone, obviously you'll know that Monarch have basically ceased to be.
Very unfortunate.
It is very unfortunate and very sad.
Very good memories
for a
of flying
very,
with
very established carrier, and I think it's fair to say one of the few left out there that really knew how to look after its staff.
Yeah.
And its passengers.
Yeah,
actually,
very
to
much,
be
very
fair,
much so.
I don't think I know a single person who's ever had a bad experience with said airline. So
Mm-hmm.
all very, very sad, especially for such a big airline here in the UK to have that happen. But anyway, enough of that.
So we are going to start the show then, as we do each week, with the rundown of the weekly news from around the world and the UK. So if you're ready, Matt.
I certainly am.
And if you're ready, Mr. Bounds.
Yep, totally.
Let's go. So, kicking off this week's first news story. This one is on the proactiveinvestors.co.uk site.
I'm sorry, what?
That's a bit of a mouthful there. Can't say that after a glass of red wine. This one, the headline then is pilots at Thomas Cook Airline. Oh, no, actually, no, that's the wrong story. There we go.
I was going to say.
It's the golfnews.com.
I was expecting an Emirates-based
That's 'cause
story.
I had the wrong click one there.
Okay.
There we go. It's golfnews.com. Headline, Emirates will be first airline to receive 777X, says Boeing. So a $76 billion order for 150 777Xs at the 2013 Dubai Air Show was the single largest aircraft order by value in US commercial aviation history. And Emirates will be the first airline to receive Boeing's all-new 777X aircraft when it gets rolled out in 2020, a senior Boeing executive confirmed, putting an end to the debate on which of its 7 customers were going to launch the US planemaker's flagship aircraft. Emirates will receive its first 777X aircraft in the mid-2020, racing ahead of the previously declared launch customer Lufthansa, which is now rethinking whether it needs all those jets it ordered. Bit of a mistake to make, really. Emirates is actually now ahead of its original mid-2020 schedule to receive its first 777X aircraft, says Marty Bentrott, Boeing's Vice President Sales for the Middle East, Turkey, Russia and Central Asia. He said, when we launched the program at the Dubai Air Show in 2013, we stood at the podium and Emirates was the key fundamental launch customer. And at the same time, we announced other customers as part of the launch group, he told Gulf News in an interview with Seattle ahead of this year's Dubai Air Show, which will take place in November. Emirates' $76 billion order for 150 Boeing 777X aircraft then was the single largest aircraft order by value in the history of US commercial aviation. It comprises of 35 777-8Xs and 115 Boeing 777-9Xs, plus 50 purchase rights. While Germany's Lufthansa is reportedly considering stretching out deliveries of the new 777X aircraft, other 777X customers such as Etihad, Qatar, Cathay Pacific, Singapore Airlines, among others, seem to be reportedly grappling with their respective problems. According to Ben Trott, the program is tracking ahead of schedule. He says that Boeing has a great backlog in the Middle East, and the successful launch of the 777X program with Emirates, Etihad and Qatar Airways as a key customers is something the plane maker is excited about. And the question they ask here in the story is, could the 777X replace the A380? US-based analyst Addison Schooland, partner at Air Insight, on the other hand, is on the view that if Emirates takes 777-9X, it could replace the Airbus A380. The 777-8X would be a good replacement for old 777-300ERs, but the big issue is the 777X and the A380 will Emirates go for the A380 Plus? The big decision here, he points out. So it is it's a huge order, obviously, for Boeing, and it doesn't surprise me that Emirates is going to be the first customer to receive these, because Emirates has just got the hugest fleet of 777s and 380s in the world.
Absolutely.
Will it replace the 380? I wouldn't be surprised if it does start to eat into the
really?
380s, because it holds nearly as many people. Two less engines.
Yeah, but again, well,
Fuel
yes, I
efficiency.
get that. I suppose that, but it's just like, and there has been many a story, hasn't there, about perhaps the, what I can only describe as the demise of the big super jumbo type thing, whereas people choose, perhaps slightly more efficient versions in times of, fuel efficiency and things. But I must admit, because they have been, have I misunderstood this? So they're predominantly Airbus, aren't they?
No, they've got Boeing and Airbus.
Oh, so they operate a mixed fleet.
Yeah.
Okay. So
but they are the largest operator of the 380.
Of the 380, right? Okay.
And I think they're probably not far off. I think being the largest operator of the 777 as well. I know that on the
I never understand this. This is why, like with people like Ryanair and that, I can kind of understand why they go down the model that they're currently using.
They've got the money, Matt.
Well, no, but it's if they're running an entire fleet of what is it, 737-800, isn't it? But all the spares are the same. So you know, presumably you can get a better deal on.
It does
buying
make sense to
lots
have
of
all the same fleet.
Yeah, I
of
mean, I
aircraft.
appreciate perhaps with someone like Emirates, you know, perhaps where you need fleets that do certain things, where your fleet needs to be more diverse. But I don't know, from a cost point of view, I'd be thinking more along the lines of the same fleet model, if at all humanly possible.
Yeah, they've got. I'm just looking through the fleet. I mean, they've got mix. It's Boeing and an Airbus fleet mix on their list of aircraft. But it's an amazing thing to see if you ever get the chance to go to Dubai Airport and see the 777s lined up at the gates, and it's just a sea of tails of aircraft that go on for a long while.
Yeah.
And obviously the 380s as well, which they've got there. Which
is that an airport you've been to before, Nev? Dubai?
Just once in 2007 for a trade show, and as usual, I saw the hotel, the airport, the exhibition centre, and then I came home again. So, but just as the bigger stuff was starting to be purchased by Emirates as well at that stage. But that was great. It's a huge airport. I've not been there, say, for nearly 10 years now, but I would imagine it's just got absolutely enormous.
I must actually consider myself quite lucky, really, actually, because I mean, when for example, with this sort of trade show season that I'm about to be embroiled in for the company I now work for, they've actually on purpose factored in some downtime so that we can at least go and see a bit of New York while we're there.
Good.
Because unlike London, obviously, we're literally arriving on the Wednesday, sleeping Wednesday night, and then the trade show starts Thursday. We stay Thursday night and then home again on the Friday after the show. You know, it's sort of one of those things. It must be, it's the same with cabin crew, isn't it? It's really, you know, it sounds very glamorous because you're going to all these various places. You're in Rome one day and you're in sort of Lithuania the next or whatever. But tarmac is tarmac at the end of the day, isn't it? They're all at a certain standard, aren't they? It's
according to Wiki. Emirates are the largest operator of the 777-300ER, and they are obviously the largest operator of the A380 800.
Cool.
They've got 98 A380s, Emirates, and 136 777-300ERs, which is quite a fleet list. So, moving on to the next story, and Matt, this one's all for you.
Yeah, the next story. This is on the CNBC website. I'm not entirely sure why we've got an American website reporting on something that happened in Essex, but anyway, there we are. It is what it is. And the headline, if it is the CNBC, will probably be hideously inaccurate. But here we go. Ryanair flight escorted by fighter jets to London. Fake news, ladies and gentlemen. Fake news.
No, this did actually happen.
This did actually happen, absolutely. Ryanair flight escorted by fighter jets to London airport after hoax. It's Britain on Wednesday scrambled RAF Typhoon fighter jets to escort a Ryanair flight from Lithuania to Britain after a hoax security alert. The Defence Ministry and airline said, adding that the flight landed safely. The flight from Kaunas to is it Kaunas? Kaunas? Never quite sure. I should really get better at this. The flight to Kaunas, from Kaunas to London Luton was diverted to London Stansted Airport. The British Transport the British Airport, designated to deal with major incidents, and there were reports of a sonic boom over eastern England when the fighter jets were deployed. Is that not the noise that you heard?
It was very much well heard over
here. The RAF confirm quick reaction alert Typhoon aircraft were launched this morning from RAF Coningsby to intercept a civilian aircraft. The aircraft was safely escorted to Stansted Airport, a spokesman for the Royal Air Force has said. He added that the planes had been authorised to transit at supersonic speed for operational reasons. Police said passengers were being safely taken off the plane, and Stansted Airport said the runway was briefly closed while the aircraft landed, but flights were arriving and departing normally again. This flight from Kaunas to London Luton diverted to London Stansted in line with procedures after Lithuanian authorities received a suspected hoax security alert, Ryanair said in a statement. And this was commented on by quite a few people local to us, because it was heard here in East Anglia, and it was quite a loud boom,
Quite a loud noise.
Do we know what? I mean, do we know any more of the
no,
the origins
it was
of
a
the hoax?
It was a hoax. It was a phone call. Apparently, it was a phone call to the officers in Lithuania.
Right.
I think it was where the aircraft was flying from, and obviously said something.
Yeah.
And it is part of the parcel of what happens here in the UK. That the QRH, quick response. The aircraft go up. And
Stansted is the designated airport for any security
airport for that. Yeah.
So we're going to move on to the next story, and this is on the Sky News website. Nev, you have this story, and I must say, here in the East, our local news programme was actually covering this, and it's a lovely, lovely story, actually.
Yeah, we don't normally have a nice British Airways.
No, we don't.
Do we?
No. To be honest,
just to make a change, we do.
Yeah.
And it says that twin British Airways pilots retire with Heathrow landings 30 seconds apart. And twin brothers have landed their final flights for British Airways just 30 seconds apart after clocking up more than 45,000 flying hours between them. Jeremy and Nick Hart celebrated their 60th birthdays by touching down at Heathrow Airport for the final time. Nick flew in from Gothenburg at 12:34 on Thursday, with Jeremy right behind him, landing from Geneva at 12:35. The two brothers never flew in the same BA crew because they're both captains. Jeremy started with the airline in 1987, and Nick joined in 2012 when British Midland was taken over. I've done 28 years of short-haul flying. That's about 11,000 flights. It's at least 1.2 million passengers, says Nick. And although not identical twins, Nick said that their similarity had led to the odd tricky situation. Years ago, Jerry never mentioned to his colleagues at British Airways that he had a twin brother who flew for British Midland. And one day, a British Airways pilot strode over to me at Heathrow and asked what on earth I was doing dressing up in a British Midland uniform. It took a bit of explaining to convince him that I wasn't Jerry. Well, Jeremy from Flitton in Bedfordshire said that he had spent a total of 2.5 years flying and joked a lot of it in the holding pattern over Heathrow.
Indeed,
I think it's a nice bit of coordination by Heathrow ATC.
Yeah, absolutely.
I wonder if Mr. Spink had anything to do with that, to coordinate them, to get them both down on the deck.
I have a nasty feeling, actually, that the time in question, I have a nasty feeling, actually, that Mr. Spink was actually in LA, wasn't he? I think he was actually in America at the time.
Yeah, well, he can always remote in, can't he? You know what he's like.
Yeah, well, that's true. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
He's got the app on his phone.
Yeah, absolutely. He just Skyped in, it's fine. Yeah.
It's a really nice story, though.
It's a lovely story, yeah, absolutely. It's nice that they were both, as I say, what's such a shame, though, in some respects, because they both reached the rank of captain sort of quite quickly, and so it actually never ended up flying together, one as a captain, one as a first officer.
Although I've been on many flights, actually, where there have been two captains flying the aircraft, either for standby reasons or because that's just how the whole thing was rostered. But that does happen fairly regularly. You do get two captains on the plane, I think.
Presumably in that situation, though, somebody has to officially take charge. So one is technically demoted.
Left
for the
seat,
purposes.
left seat, you're in charge.
Yeah,
I think so.
Whoever's left
but
seat.
it's whoever fights over that left seat. You see,
or perhaps
do they get up and change halfway through?
Straws.
Yeah, absolutely.
Pull straws.
Yeah, pull
Or
straws.
paper, rock, scissors, and stone and stuff like that.
Yes.
Yeah,
that's nice. That's nice to know that aviation decisions are based on rock, paper, scissors. That's the way forward, isn't it? Yeah, absolutely.
No, good, nice story there, Nev.
Indeed.
So next story, and this one is on the proactiveinvestors.co.uk website. You know that one.
Do you know? Deja vu here. I don't know what's about before.
Pilots at Thomas Cook Airline call off strike action and enter arbitration to end pay dispute. The resolution of the dispute means that industrial action planned for today, this is Friday, as well as a 3-day strike from October the 12th and the 4-day strike from October the 18th have all been called off. So pilots working for the airline, owned by tour operator Thomas Cook, have called off 8 days of planned industrial action after the union BALPA and the company agreed to enter arbitration to end a dispute over pay. The pilots have previously held one 12-hour and one 24-hour strike through the planned which was planned for last Friday, which was called off the week last week following talks. Thomas Cook has said that all its passengers were able to fly during the industrial action, and the resolution of the dispute means that industrial action that's planned for today, as well as a 3-day strike on the 12th and a 4-day on the 18th of October, have all been called off, which is good news. A spokesman for Thomas Cook Airlines said in a statement that they remain keen to resolve the dispute, and in the interests of all involved, we will now focus on proceeding with arbitration process. BALPA General Secretary Brian Strutton said that our members voted to end the dispute by binding an arbitration, which Thomas Cook has now agreed to. I am pleased that we have been able to find a peaceful way of resolving the pilot's pay dispute without further disruption to passengers.
How did that go?
Like that.
Okay.
I think with the with what's been going on over the last few weeks and stuff, you've got to carry on with the airlines. Keep these airlines going as good as we can.
Well, they could be. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, they could be in a worse situation than they are already. I mean, let's be honest. It's if events of this week can prove it, sort of. What you assume to be very stable airlines may or may not be, and it's I don't know. I understand why people are striking, but I don't know. I think there are worse things out there, I suppose. I mean, especially from a pilot's point of view, the hours you're allowed to fly are so regulated anyway. Presumably you can't do any more than you're legally allowed to do, surely. I mean, it's the same for coach drivers. You can only do so many hours before you run out. And
it's a story we've talked about a lot in the past few weeks, actually, pilots' pay and stuff like that. So,
yeah.
But for those of you who don't know, possibly, Thomas Cook Airlines, they were founded in March 2003, so they're quite a young airline.
Well, they actually started as travel agents, didn't they?
Yeah.
Developed into.
I think Thomas Cook do the all-inclusive holidays, don't they?
Is that where
they
that
do
all started
all-inclusive
from?
now.
Yeah.
They've got a fleet size of 34 aircraft. Thomas Cook have. They've got a mix again. They've got A321s, A330s.
Yeah.
They've got some of your favourite. 577-300. No, 300. Yeah, they've got 5 of those.
Fire to that stupid.
And they've also got some 767-300ERs. They've got 2 of those as well.
Good. Yeah. I'll get the matches then. It's fine.
But yeah, they're based in Manchester, in England. They are Thomas Cook. So yeah.
So now we were talking about this at before the show started. It was because one's just been rebranded TUI, haven't they?
Thompson.
Right, not Thomas Cook.
Thompson Airline or Thompson Airways in the UK. The Thompson name was no more. That's going to be TUI.
They've been owned by TUI for quite a long time, haven't they? Actually,
but,
I mean, I was actually saying at the top of the show some clever advertising from that point of view, because it's like, Thompson has been rebranded TUI, and it's like we've crossed the T's, dotted the I's, and put you in the middle.
I know. That's very nice.
That's such I must admit, it's one of those few things where I've actually thought, do you know what? So whoever came up with that deserves a pat on the back. Some advertising guy there has done really. I love that. We've crossed the T's, dotted the I's, and put you in the middle. Yeah.
Nice.
I'm available for voiceover work, by the way, should anybody require it. Yeah. No,
so
deadly silence. Good. Okay,
so moving on to the next story.
Okay, all right. The next story then is on the RTE website, and today clearly I am sponsored by Ryanair. That's always nice. Ryanair pilots promise significant improvements in pay and conditions. Yes, it's been a funny old time for Ryanair of late, isn't it? And
this story came out this morning. Actually,
I saw something that I have not seen before, and that was Mr. Michael O'Leary in a video interview in a press conference, and he apologised no less than 4 times in the same speech.
Ooh.
Mr. O'Leary apologised. I mean,
he's been replaced by a robot.
Right, yeah. Do you know, I was glad I was lying down when the story broke, actually, because I wouldn't have believed it otherwise, I think. But anyway, Ryanair pilots promise significant improvements in pay and conditions. Ryanair Chief Executive Michael O'Leary has written to pilots at the airline promising improvements to pay and conditions, including a commitment to benchmark pay against competitor airlines. However, Mr. O'Leary said that the changes would only be secured by negotiation through the company's in-house employee representative councils. In a letter to Ryanair pilots, Mr. O'Leary said that the company would match and exceed the pay offered by other 737 aircraft operator airlines at any base where the Ryanair rate for pilots was lower. In the correspondence addressed to all Ryanair pilots, Mr. O'Leary said that he was writing to apologise personally to each of them for the disruptions experienced to rosters as a result of the rostering management failure in recent weeks. Addressing comments he had made about pilots after the company's AGM last month, Mr. O'Leary said Ryanair's pilots were the best in the business, worked hard and were very well trained and were extremely professional, unlike Mr. O'Leary, I fear, during that interview he mentioned. In the letter, Mr. O'Leary promises pilots a loyalty bonus of up to €12,000 payable from next month, and promises pilots an improvement in the management of rosters, training and base selection. In the letter, Ryanair tells pilots it will deliver significant improvements to your rosters, your pay, your basing, your contracts and your career progression over the next 12 months. The letter said Ryanair would exceed the pay and job security offered by rivals such as Jet2 and Norwegian Air, and that it would negotiate on any differences in conditions between Ryanair's Irish contracts and those offered by local laws at European bases. In the letter, Mr. O'Leary urges pilots who are considering joining a competitor airline to stay with Ryanair. He said some pilots may have been misguided into believing that Ryanair's employee representative council structure could be pulled down by pilots withdrawing from it. So he sort of apologised and then sort of went back on it almost immediately. That's always nice. But he says the only way to change existing agreements is to negotiate through the ERCs, as the company will not deal with third-party pilot unions. Yeah, it's... I don't know. I suppose the one thing you'd think, given that a lot of this is all about pilots needing their holiday, etc., you would have thought that they'd sort of maybe try to be nicer to their pilots, to stop them from jumping ship and going to German wings and I think one of the reports I was reading, Norwegian. Yeah, Norwegian was the one I was thinking of. Sorry, EasyJet was another one.
Can I just say that Dr. Steph is watching the show at 28,000 feet over Kentucky?
Wow. Now there's a first.
Using go-go Wi-Fi.
Wow. Is that because she was listening to our show last week and obviously I hope she's paying, the cheaper rate that we mentioned.
We should get her to call in on Skype.
We should, yeah, absolutely.
Steph, call in via Skype.
Yeah, call in via Skype. That would be amazing. In the air.
That would be good.
That would
Steph,
be very
call
cool.
in. Oh, that'd be so good.
Yeah,
okay, wait for the call.
Okay. Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Come on, Steph. Call in via Skype. We could have our first ever guest.
In the air.
In the air.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
So
you're all right there, Carlos. Do you need to lie down?
I think Michael O'Leary needs to lie down after what he's said here, with his offering this, that, and the other.
I mean, it's just. I mean, the thing is, obviously that we now know of several pilots who are suddenly available for work, and I can't imagine a single one of them choosing that airline as somewhere to go and be employed, because they have the worst reputation for looking after their staff. I mean, they're lucky in some respects that it's such a desired profession, I think. Otherwise, I can't see hardly anybody working for them, frankly. But then that's just my personal opinion. I'm glad I don't know anyone that works there. That's the main thing.
Exactly. Yeah. Very true. So, Nev,
anything to add to that, sir?
What are you going to add to that, Nev?
It's a very interesting time, isn't it? I think these things have a habit of coming around to bite people. And
yes.
Do you remember the people that are listening from overseas won't remember necessarily the Gerald Ratner story, but he described some of his products as not being very good, and the company had a serious problem after that. I'm not saying for one moment this is the same thing, but whoever the CEO is, you've just got to just play it sensibly, and I think he's made an error here. Certainly.
I will, in some respects, however, defend him on the one hand, though, in the fact that this is, okay, so obviously we've had the Monarch thing, we've also got this Ryanair thing going on, but obviously the problems that Ryanair have got are, oh, hello, Nick Anderson is calling us.
Bring him in then.
Here we go. Sorry, one moment, caller. I'm almost a bit terrified. If we said something to offend him, that's what I'm worried about.
This is, I mean, okay, so obviously we've had the monarch thing.
Hey, Devil, it's Dev here!
I mean,
It's very close.
I went 3,800 feet!
Oh, Nick.
Actually, her voice isn't quite that high a pitch, is it?
I think Captain Nick has trapped something there. Anyway, that was.
Where's he gone? He's gone.
He's disappeared. That's it. That's all we got. That's
Oh,
fine.
okay.
Okay.
So we had a bearded Steph join us there.
She has let herself go, hasn't she?
I
These
know,
marathons
bless
aren't
her.
good for her, I tell you.
I mean, you couldn't invent it, could you?
You
Oh,
couldn't,
dear.
you couldn't make it up, could you? You couldn't plan anything like this.
I've lost the plot now.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah, Nev, your
What are we
story's
talking
next.
about? I can't remember.
Well, this is on the Environmental Leader website, and I'm regularly on this website, as you can imagine.
You know, one of these days I'm going to sit here and I'm going to watch him when he's looking for these stories, because the sites that he goes to are just amazing. I mean, I suppose you could argue that, you know, we're offering stories that, is it the wine? Do you drink wine when you're looking for these stories?
No, actually, the show notes for tonight's show I done whilst I was upstairs last night.
Right, okay.
Late.
They were a bit late coming through, though, weren't they?
Yeah.
Did you not think today?
Yeah, the problem there was I forgot to press the send button after I'd done these show notes.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm
That's it.
sure it will be a fascinating read, Nev.
Carry on, Nev, carry
I
on.
really cannot wait. Please enlighten us with your amazing experience.
Well, it's a British Airways story,
Oh,
so
dear.
we like that. And the global aviation industry produces around 2% of all human-induced carbon dioxide emissions. And with that in mind, airlines have made strides in recent years to reduce that impact. British Airways is the most recent airline to tout its progress, with 3 recent announcements regarding the investment in its fuel efficiency and eco-technology. This week, the airline's 25th Dreamliner was delivered to its home at Heathrow. The Boeing aircraft, fresh from Seattle, is the most fuel-efficient long-haul aircraft and the most technologically advanced aircraft in British Airways fleet. And the 197-foot wingspan curvature also allows the aircraft to climb more efficiently and also increases fuel efficiency. The announcement of the new aircraft follows last week's announcement that the British Airways became the first airline to introduce eco-friendly Moto-TOC tugs. That's easy for me to say.
Say what?
And high Moto-TOC tugs.
Lovely, very good.
High-tech remote-controlled devices that push back aircraft. The advanced technology will allow staff to prepare aircraft across the airline's short-haul operation for departure more efficiently, replacing traditional diesel tugs, the company said. With the new device, a single ramp agent will be able to push a plane backwards from the gate remotely.
Right.
Just have a think about that for a second.
No, let's not.
BA also signed a partnership with renewable fuels company Velocis to design a series of waste plants that convert household waste into renewable jet fuel to power its fleet. The first plant will take hundreds of thousands of tons of household waste per year and convert it into clean-burning, sustainable fuels, contributing to the airline's commitment to reduce net emissions by 50% by 2050. That's around 10 to 9. And alternative fuels, particularly sustainable biofuels, have been identified as excellent candidates for helping achieve the industry's goal of improving fleet fuel efficiency by 1.5% per year between 2015 and 2020. Biofuels derived from biomass such as algae, jatropha and camelina have been shown to reduce the carbon footprint of aviation fuel by up to 80% over their full life cycle. If commercial aviation were to get 6% of its fuel supply from biofuel by 2020, this would result in the overall carbon footprint reduction by 5%, according to the Air Transport Action Group. And airlines have joined the journey to improve efficiency. Virgin Atlantic, for example, announced in June that it had dropped its CO2 emissions from more than 5.2 metric tons to slightly over 4 metric tons from a series of carbon savings initiative, including purchase of a multi-million-dollar fleet investment in Boeing 787 aircraft, single-engine taxiing, real-time weather technology to optimize flight planning, and rigorous weight management of all products on the aircraft. More than 99% of the airline's direct emissions come from jet fuel use, which is why Virgin focuses most of its environmental efforts in that area, the company said. And the rest comes from its supply chain, which is another area of focus. Interesting to see how that tug does a pushback on it. So I hope it's being carefully monitored by the boys and girls either side of the wing, because we have enough accidents on the ramp as it is. So
have you seen the pictures, Nev, of the Moto Talk?
Yes.
It's like, you know, the remote control devices you can have that hoover your house.
Yes, I've heard of those. Yeah.
It's like a large one of those with a hole for putting the aircraft's nose wheel in.
Do you know what it actually reminds me of? It looks very much to me like anybody who's been a caravan user. It looks like one of those motor mover things where
it does,
where you move the caravan around. Although actually, when we come to Nev's passenger experience there very shortly, there is a sort of a subject that's discussed about perhaps British Airways using toys that are unnecessarily helpful to improve the experience of their passengers. I'm not sure this is something that's going to necessarily bring much to the party.
I've just actually Googled. I'm just looking at the descriptions and stuff for this Moto Talk.
Right, okay. It's nice to know that you're branching out.
And
Google on the
they've
internet
actually
these
got
days,
one that's big enough to support a helicopter, a small kind of a Lynx or some size helicopter, and manoeuvre that around.
Right. Okay.
I mean, it is a really interesting piece of kit for those of you who can go on Google and just type in Moto Talk and have a look at this. It is it's going to take up less room, that's for sure.
Indeed, absolutely. It's. I
wonder if it's a James Dyson invention, perhaps.
Oh, no.
Looks like it might be, doesn't it?
Oh no.
Possibly.
It could well be. Who knows?
So moving on to the next story, and this one is on the Philadelphia.cbslocal.com website. And it's good news for those of you in the US who live in Philadelphia. Irish Airline are to begin direct flights
not
from
Ryanair,
Philadelphia. No, international. Close, but no cigar.
Okay.
So the luck of the Irish will be smiling on you a week after St. Patrick's Day when Irish airline Aer Lingus initiates a direct route between Philadelphia and Dublin. Aer Lingus spokesman Declan Kearney said it's a push to further strengthen Dublin Airport as a leading gateway. We've doubled the size of our transatlantic business in the last 5 years, he said. Its growth surge is driven by point-to-point travel between Dublin and North American cities like Philadelphia and connecting traffic to European destinations. Dublin Airport has jumped up in the European League table of airports from 11th to 5th position in the last 5 years, said Kearney. Aer Lingus have been steadily growing its US route networks to places like New York, Boston, Washington, Chicago, Miami, LA and San Francisco. There will be 4 flights a week, blocked at about 6.5 hours going and 7.5 hours on the return trip. Times the Aer Lingus 5:30 p.m. departure gets you there just after 5 a.m. the next day, local time. American Airlines also operates a daily non-stop flight between Philly and Dublin. The American flight departs Philly at 9 p.m. and lands at around 8:45 a.m. Dublin time. A quick look and see a round-trip fares for the airline on this particular flight: $575 on Aer Lingus or $810 on American.
That's quite a difference. Although I must say I prefer the time frame that American Airlines is using. I mean, that's slightly friendlier, I suppose, because if you are lucky that you can sleep in the air, you can actually sort of nod off. You know, I mean, you can arrive, if you like, sort of at that time, fresh for the day ahead. You know, 9 p.m. sort of in the air, and then wake up in time to sort of work if you're coming from the States this way. I mean, I guess it won't be quite so friendly going the other way. But
I've only flown from Dublin a few times, but it's a nice airport.
yeah, I've never flown into there because whenever I've been to Ireland, the last few times I've always gone into Derry. So
Derry, yeah.
But of course, Ryanair don't do that route anymore. So I don't know what I'm going to do next time I go.
So moving on to the next story, Matt. This one's for you.
Yes, it is. Sorry, apologies for that. Yes, so it is on the Etihad. Is the headline, and the airline is I don't even know how to pronounce
Etihad.
No, Etihad is fine. It's the newspaper that it's from, or the
online.
The
Kahili.
Yeah. The something or other Times, anyway. It's the KHALEEJ Times. So, again, another quality finding by the legend that is Carlos here.
He does it on purpose, doesn't he?
I think he does, yeah, absolutely. Anyway, Etihad has been named Airline of the Year for the 4th straight year. The Etihad Airways has been named Airline of the Year in the UK for the 4th consecutive year by the Travel Trade Gazette. The Abu Dhabi-based... I can't say Abu Dhabi. I just
Abu Dhabi?
No, I know, but I say it and I just want to go Abu Dhabi do. So I'm sorry. the Abu Dhabi... is your soundboard broken there? Is
it didn't work.
What a shame. The Abu Dhabi-based airline beat strong competition to take the top prize at a ceremony held at London's Lyceum Theatre, which is where they normally hold the Lion King. So what on earth they did with the Lion King for that night, I do not know. And attended by 750 leading figures from the British travel industry. Mohammed Al-Boluki, who is Etihad Airways Executive Vice President of Commercial, said to be awarded the coveted Airline of the Year award for the 4th time in a row is a real honour for the airline, and one we are very proud of, particularly as it is based on feedback from the UK's leading travel agents. The award reflects the continued commitment and tremendous hard work from everyone at Etihad Airways to ensure we remain at the forefront of international aviation year after year, and is a wonderful recognition of our strong commercial relationships with the travel trade. The TTG Travel Awards have a 2-stage judging process with a shortlist initially decided by votes from travel agents. Shortlisted companies then complete a submission document outlining achievements and performance during the last 12 months, which is then judged by a panel of industry experts and leading travel agencies. Etihad Airways was singled out for being the UK's favourite airline by travel agents, and also won points with the judges for its strong business performance, passenger growth, fuel efficiencies and other developments to its premium product. TTG's group editor Pippa Jack says that the TTG Travel the Travel Awards have earned a reputation for being the toughest awards to win in travel. So any company who takes home a trophy this year can be sure that they really are the best in class. This year's winners are those companies that have done more to develop their product, more to grow their business, and more to support their travel agent partners than any others in their sector. We offer a huge congratulations to Etihad Airways, who impressed our judges with their stellar performance in the last 12 months. The TTG was established as a travel trade gazette in 1953 and was the world's first weekly travel trade newspaper.
No, it's not surprising that the airline in question has won this award. It seems like whenever there's any massive award ceremonies for airlines and stuff, wouldn't you say, Nev, it always seems to be kind of these the big kind of UAE-based airlines that win these awards.
Yeah, I mean the Middle East, obviously. I mean they have got aviation right, haven't they? I mean, obviously there's fewer problems with regard to some of the costs involved there, but they, in terms of fuel and things like that, but they really do it properly, don't they? So they offer some of the best class of service anywhere on the route networks, and also the airports and the lounges are fantastic as well. So it's not surprising that they do tend to win quite a lot, I would say.
Yeah, I've fond memories actually when we had our visit to Heathrow Tower.
Yes,
I can remember standing up when we were in the actual control area of the tower. I remember seeing one of Etihad's A380s taking off from the runway back below us. and it's one heck of a sight. It's a really nice paint scheme that Etihad have on their aircraft.
Do you know one thing I remember the most actually from our time looking at all those aircraft was seeing the sizes of them
the
all
difference in
lined up, 'cause
sizes,
we
yeah.
did have one,
Yeah.
didn't we? We had the A380, and then we had something that wasn't quite so big, and then we had this little tiny British Airways, little tiny baby
Or
thing.
Airbus.
Yeah,
Or an
absolutely.
Airbus, the three.
But
I think
they
it
were
was-
all
yeah.
they were all British Airways, weren't they? They were all BAA, and they were different
Yeah.
sizes. It was sort of so that Daddy takes off first, and then Mummy takes off, and then the little
children.
baby takes off, and the children go. It's always nice. Yes.
Oh no!
It was an amazing day. That was. Yeah.
Oh,
I want to do that again. That was amazing.
I know we should do that again.
Anyway.
So moving on to the next story, Nev.
Do you remember when you used to just check in your bag at the airport, and that was it? There was no discussion about it.
End of the
job.
Yeah.
Those were a long time ago. Those days,
Right.
unfortunately. But now Iceland Air has introduced a new low-cost airfare category called Economy Light that promises cheaper flight prices, but with a painful trade-off. Passengers must pay nearly $100 each way if they want to check a bag on some routes. According to the industry publication Travel Weekly, Iceland Air Economy Light passengers will pay $69 per checked bag each way on transatlantic flights to and from its hub in Reykjavik, and $95 per bag on flights to and from other destinations in Europe, including London, Paris, Stockholm, Amsterdam and Munich. For a round trip, that adds up to as much as $190 for an amenity that used to be included at no extra charge with Iceland Air tickets, and is still included for free on transatlantic flights with most other airlines. Considering how inexpensive airfare to Europe has become lately, with flash sales offering selected flights between $55 and $89, it's quite possible that Iceland Air passengers will pay more to check in a bag than other travellers are for their flights to Europe. It's unclear exactly how much a traveller would save strictly on airfare by booking an economy light ticket versus a more traditional economy class ticket, and Iceland Air has not released any specific details on pricing. In searches that Money conducted on Thursday of this week, economy light tickets to mainland Europe cost roughly $50 to $60 less than tickets including one checked bag. The fee for changing an economy light ticket was more expensive, $275 versus $200 for an economy standard booking. Iceland Air stresses that the new economy light class of service is all about giving passengers more fare options when booking travel. The airline also highlights the fact that an economy light passenger will still be able to pre-select seats and bring one standard carry-on bag onto the plane at no extra charge. Clearly, Iceland Air's new service class is aimed at helping the carrier compete against the low-cost upstarts such as WOW Air and Norwegian Air. These are the airlines driving prices down, with the likes of the $55 transatlantic flights mentioned earlier. And these airlines charge extra for seat reservations and baggage, both checked and carry on if they're booking the least expensive tickets. By introducing Economy Light, Iceland Air is able to offer cheap airfares on par with the likes of WOW, which is also based in Iceland, and still provide an arguably better value than the low-cost airlines, because all Iceland Air customers get seat reservations and carry-on bags for free. Well, I guess if you're travelling light, it's not a problem at all. You can get some very good fares, but if you just want to check one of those suitcases and you're on that economy light ticket, that's going to hurt a bit, isn't it, with the cost of the fare?
It's almost shocking just now how many different fare and names and stuff the airlines have now. You know, when you go back to when there was just economy or business, or economy and first and stuff, and that was it. Economy first, business first, economy, whatever. Now you've got economy plus, you've got you've got this economy light, premium economy, and there's so many different fare structures with various airlines.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just I don't know. It's. I mean, obviously, I think, and I'm sure Nev will completely agree with me 100% here when I say there really should be only one class, and that's business class.
Well, if we could all afford to fly it, then that would be great. But
yes, the new job is good, but it's not that good. Yeah.
No, exactly. Yes.
No, I think on a plus side, it's good to have the choice. Though, if you do want to, an incredibly cheap fare and don't want to take anything with you but your shirt on your back, then that's good.
Yeah.
But if I had the money, I'd probably go for business every time.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd say I got to do it once when I was coming back from New Zealand a gazillion years ago, and that was only because there was only one other person in business class, and they offered it. I think it was £200 for me to upgrade. At the airport, they offered it to me while I was there, and it was just another £200 on a flight that had cost me £1,700 at the time. It was really like nothing. It was just like, do you know what? I'm going to have a bit of it on the way. Oh, it's so civilized. There I am in business class, supping a glass of champagne, reading a copy of the Daily Mail, while everyone else, while cattle class was being loaded behind me. I mean, it was all very civilized.
Have you actually, Nev? Have you ever had the opportunity to travel first class with any airline?
I never have. No,
Yeah.
and I don't think I ever will unless I get some sort of upgrade one of these days. But no, I haven't.
So you haven't used your podcast host royalty pass.
What does that? Where does that get us again?
Then?
That I normally get a downgrade when I try that.
Absolutely. It's just like, oh god, we don't want him on here. Got to boot him off quick. Absolutely, I agree. You live in a lovely world, Carlos. It must be nice and fluffy where you're from. Deary
It's
me.
quite interesting, though, isn't it? I mean, first class is I don't know. It's the cost of doing it is so incredible, and as good as the experience will be, you can never really say it was really worth it, can you? Unless you get a free upgrade from business or
free
something.
upgrade is a different kettle of fish.
I think unless you're travelling an incredibly long distance, like 12 or 13, 14 hours plus, you don't. It's a silly, really. I think
it is. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, business, I can see why it's worth it, especially if you are literally flying somewhere to be on business, and you need to be when you touch down, you need to get off the aeroplane and actually
feel good,
deliver.
Yeah,
you've gone there to do a job,
which is why Etihad have the residents.
Right.
On their 380s.
Yes, I know, but if all I'm doing is going to America and selling cards, I'm not sure that warrants the expense of me being suitably refreshed.
I think off the top of my head, I think the
Captain Sir Neville of Bounds obviously is a different kettle of fish altogether. Obviously, when he goes abroad, I mean, he needs to be 100% fighting fit for his various contracts.
Well, yes, but I the last thing I want to do is diss my company that I work for on the air here, but they will only pay for an economy class ticket. So if I want any kind of anything better than that, it's all down to me.
Fair enough. I like that. I don't want to diss the company I work for, but
if you're listening, MD,
no, absolutely.
So moving on,
but you can understand why they're only doing economy tickets. You're only going out there to do a job. I mean, in some respects, I wouldn't mind so much going economy if they like put you up so you got there the night before and you had a chance to recharge your batteries before you then launched into what you had to do. I mean, that's a different kettle of fish altogether.
If I had £14,000 just sitting in the bank doing nothing, I probably would, just for the experience, do the Heathrow to Dubai with Emirates in the residence section, your own suite.
I mean,
it is your own suite.
These wonderful credentials that you are boasting about, sir. Maybe you should try and use those to get yourself an upgrade. Good luck.
I should do. Oh, is that someone calling in?
We seem to have someone calling in. One moment.
Who's that calling in?
I don't know.
What's that coming over the hill?
Is it a
monster?
No, we can't.
No, it's not a monster.
That's just rude.
No.
I mean, that's just horrible. Why would you say that?
Who's calling in?
I don't know.
It's Captain Jeff. I'm calling him from 30,000 feet, and I'm so happy and proud to be the first one on the PTUK to call in on an airplane. It's kind of noisy here.
Yeah. Do you know, I can't help but feel we're having the Mickey taken out of us ever so slightly.
That's Jeff actually outside of the aircraft.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's what she said. Hello, Jeff.
Hello, sir.
Hello. Are you not receiving my video?
No, we're not.
No.
Oh, I don't know why.
Oh dear. Oh, there he is.
There he is.
always
See if I
uniform
push
and
the
everything.
correct button.
There we are. Hello, sir. How are you?
Right, this is my my sound effective device here.
Very effective.
Oh, yeah. Like it.
I
I thought it was a new mic.
I did
Jeff.
think. I thought he was. I thought he was just sticking his head out the mad dog.
Yeah, well, there is that. There is that. Yeah.
I was actually calling from the wing.
Oh, you're at the loo. You're in the loo at the time.
Yeah, absolutely. We're up for a bit of wing walking, are we, sir? That's the way forward.
Yes. I thought it was funny that I was driving home. I was listening to the show the whole way home, and it was funny that Captain Nick had the same idea that I had, except that he was going to impersonate, and I decided I would not impersonate, but I was just laughing that messed up minds think alike.
Yeah, well, indeed, absolutely. And there's a very good reason why you two are very much involved in the same show.
So welcome on to the show, Captain Jeff.
Thank you.
It's lovely to see
It's
you.
such a pleasure.
Somebody in the chat room, Jeff, has said, is that the APU from the MD-88 that you've got in your hand there?
Yes.
That'll be what it is.
Oh, so how are things with you, Jeff? What have you been up to? I'll take it you've obviously been flying the amazing
I
Mad Dog.
have just literally returned from. I'm sorry, I'm cutting you out, Carlos.
Carry on.
It's a little bit dodgy, but I hope my signal's okay.
It's good.
Just returned from basically a 5-day trip. I left last Monday night and just walked in the door and literally scrambled to get everything connected, all the mics and everything else connected, so that I could join you guys today on the show.
Very, very
so
kind.
excited. And I had a really exciting time last night at Captain Rick Bell. You may have heard of that guy.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
From the 9/11th over at his lovely home with his lovely wife, Erin, and my first officer, and Paul from that area. And, the 5 of us had a grand time, a nice meetup.
Fantastic. This is what we could.
Excellent.
Andy Furlong is concerned and asking the question, Jeff, why are you in fancy dress this evening?
Well, it's because I've literally not had time to change out of my uniform.
Yeah.
It's very
It's my
fancy.
Halloween costume, actually. I'm going to pretend to be an airline pilot.
Right, excellent. Yes, yeah. I tried that once too, but the outfit didn't fit me. Sadly. But, it ended up looking like the Incredible Hulk by the time I'd finished with it. It's just...
I do have to say though, I need to lodge a complaint.
Okay. Okay. Oh dear.
Why is it that the
actually,
only person that I see on video is Nev?
Right. Okay. There's a good reason for that. Because if I turn on the video,
I'm sorry.
The only person that you see is me, I'm afraid, and nobody needs that in their life. Hello.
Oh, that's good. Yeah. Well, thanks. Yeah. Hello there, Matt.
Hello there. Hello there. Yes. And just
No, you don't have to.
For future reference,
You don't have to turn the video on.
all complaints are obviously handled by Sir Nev of Bounds, I'm afraid. So that's where you need to fire all complaints.
I'll remember that.
Yeah, indeed.
Yep. So you're in time for the last 3 news stories, Jeff. Actually, so we've got one of Captain Nick's favourite stories coming up now.
Oh dear.
All right, I'm going to quickly see if I can find that thing that you sent me.
See,
just
I'm not the only
some
one.
show notes.
Yeah, I'm not the only one that doesn't read the show notes. It's fine.
I did look at the show notes, actually. It's just that I looked at them on my phone, and now I'm at home with my computer, and I just need to start up my email.
Why didn't I think of that excuse? I need to come up with better excuses. Apparently me being at work is not a valid excuse, apparently.
No.
Oh, dear. Anyway, I have no idea where we got to story-wise. Where are we?
We're at the story number 10.
Right, that doesn't help. I've got 4 tabs in front of me.
Okay, well, it's the story that's on Flight Global.
Okay, right.
So this one is on.
Well, so who's going to? I'll sit my one out. So
Okay,
we've got to have the legend that is Sir Captain of Jeff read at least one story.
Yeah, I think Jeff. What one should we give Jeff? Should we give Jeff?
Nothing like doing some show planning on the fly, ladies and gentlemen.
Jeff can have the next story then after moi. He can have the Airbus story.
Okay. Oh, that'll be a treat for him.
I'd rather have the Boeing story.
Oh, okay. You can have the Boeing one then. Go on then, Jeff. Go first, Jeff.
Yeah, absolutely.
See, if Nick was on the show, then he'd have the Airbus.
Of course,
story,
absolutely.
right?
We've already had him on this evening. That was enough for me.
Yeah, I did hear that. It was good hearing you, Nick.
Yeah.
Never sounded better.
Yeah, absolutely. Indeed.
So,
Far away,
what
sir.
is the next story, Captain Jeff?
Well, this is from, as you mentioned, Flight Global, and the headline picture. Boeing rolls out first 787-10 built for customer. Am I on the right article?
You are
Yeah.
indeed spot on, sir.
Excellent. Okay. Boeing has rolled out its first production version of the 787-10 a few months ahead of a planned certification milestone for the new aircraft variant and delivery to launch customer Singapore Airlines next year. The 5.47-meter stretch of the 787-9 emerged from Boeing's final assembly facility in North Charleston, South Carolina, company's exclusive site for 787-10 deliveries. And it's a very, very pretty picture. Boeing is excited to have finished final assembly of the first 787-10 Dreamliner for Singapore Airlines, says Dinesh Kaskar, Senior Vice President of Asia Pacific and India Sales for Boeing Commercial Airplanes. Boeing launched the 787-10 in 2013 to appeal to customers that are willing to trade more capacity for shorter range. The 787-10 seats up to 330 passengers in Boeing's marketing configuration and can fly up to about 6,430 nautical miles. The
Hello?
Oh, dear.
Oh, dear.
We seem to have lost Jeff.
Oh, no.
The man with more internet bandwidth than the entire world.
Yeah, and it's all gone.
He looks just a bit upset there, doesn't he?
He does. He looks
In that
a bit
particular
distressed
shot.
about the whole thing. Oh, dear. We'll give it a moment.
We'll
to
give it a
recover.
moment.
Yeah, we'll give it a moment to recover.
So basically, the story continues on. There we go. The rollout event comes several weeks after Rolls-Royce achieved type certification for the Trent 1000 TEN, the engine selected by Singapore Airlines. Boeing first flew the flight test version of the 787-10 on the 31st of March. Except for the extra length and a few minor differences, the type is identical to the Dash 9. Singapore and Etihad Airlines owns the largest orders for the 787-10, with each buying 30 of the type. Overall, Boeing has sold 177 787-10s to 12 different customers. Now, the pictures you put on the screen there, they're quite nice. That was a Singapore one there with the tail painted, and they have stretched, wouldn't you say, Nev, the Dreamliner to the max, really, haven't they?
Yeah, definitely. And as I say, having been on the Dreamliner for the first time a couple of weeks ago, it is a very nice job. I felt very refreshed at the end of it too.
Yeah.
Yeah, as I say, and of course, what were you on? You were on something similar, weren't you?
I flew.
You were Dreamliner.
I flew
weren't you?
BA's Dash 9 last year, and I flew Air Canada's Dash 9 this year.
Okay.
Yeah,
As I say, like I said, I think a few weeks ago, it's just like we both, except myself and Carlos, have both done exactly the same trip essentially. And I looked like I'd been around the world 3 times, and he looked like he'd literally just done a little hop flight to Edinburgh. I mean,
it does make the difference.
Yeah,
though. When the aircraft initially came out and that they made all these comments, Boeing said, you're going to feel better when you come off the aircraft,
whatever,
and it's amazing, the air is fantastic, and you thought, but it actually does make a hell of a lot of difference.
I bet it's I look forward to trying one day. We'll see.
No, you never know. You might get an aircraft change when you fly out to the States.
We're on a 767 now.
That could change.
You
never know.
No, you never know.
Because you're flying.
It's United.
United,
again.
aren't you? Yeah, United.
I didn't learn the first time.
That could change. You never know.
Indeed.
So, who wants the next story? Shall I?
You bash
okay.
on,
So the next story, this one is on the bizjournals.com site, and this one is a story that is quite a serious story that happened not so long back. I think it was a week ago. Was it this happened? It was a week ago. Yeah, the Airbus A380 that headed for LA surviving an engine failure, and here what it says about the jet's future. This was the Air France Airbus A380 jet that had the engine failure in flight, and a second industry analyst said what happened after the scary engine failure instead highlighted how robust the jet was during a real emergency. The Air France jet in question was carrying 496 passengers and 24 crew members on a flight from Paris to Los Angeles when one of its 4 engines exploded as it cruised above Greenland. The aircraft made an emergency landing in eastern Canada and no one was hurt. Passengers heard a loud boom and jet drop before pilots regained control. Photos traded by passengers on social media showed the extent of the damage. Matt's just put that on the screen there for those of you watching on YouTube. You'll see the picture there of said engine.
Isn't it? It is quite a mess.
Yeah, it is. French Civil Aviation Authorities, Air France, Airbus and the Engine Alliance, a partnership between General Electric and Pratt & Whitney, which made the engine for the A380, are investigating what went wrong. It was the second engine failure involving an A380 since a Qantas A380 blew one of its Rolls-Royce engines in November 2010. What happens next could be of interest to aerospace suppliers who supply parts for Airbus jets and Boeing. Sarj Ahmad, an analyst with Strategic Aero in London, said it was a miracle for Air France and its passengers that shrapnel didn't hit the plane after the engine explosion. At the altitude and speed the plane was cruising at the time, the components would have been jettisoned at a very high velocity behind the aircraft, Ahmad said. Given the A380 is now an aging jet, I don't know, it's not that old, and is largely inferior both economically and performance-wise to Airbus's new jets like the A350 and also to Boeing's 787, and coming soon as 777X, this event will almost certainly add to Airbus's woes, Ahmad said. Airbus, which has cut production of the gas-guzzling 4-engine A380 as airlines switched to smaller twin-engine models, did not respond to a request for comment. Michael Malunzu,
How'd it go?
a Seattle analyst with Air Insight, and Ahmad said it's premature to speculate on the accident cause. Merluzu noted that jet engine failures are incredibly rare events and are usually traced to operational metal fatigue, a previously undetected manufacturing flaw, or both.
I don't think this was any kind of manufacturing error. I mean, it's...
Do you remember, Nev, cast your mind back a few years to that, I think it was a BA Airbus that had the latches not secured quite right.
Yes,
on the engine
A319.
yeah.
That's right.
And
Now, the thing is, when it all goes wrong, the idea, hopefully, is to have an uncontained a contained engine failure,
Yeah.
so you don't have bits spewing out all over the place. And QF32 in 2010, the A380 they're talking about, that did a lot of collateral damage with hydraulics, electrics, and all sorts of things. And the crew had a heck of a job getting it all under control and getting the checklist completed because they had so many failures caused by this. In this instance here, although it looks a lot worse in some respects, it seems that there were fewer failures, but obviously until we see the report, we won't actually know. But
I think it's safe to say, given the amount of damage that had actually occurred to this particular engine, I mean, it really is a miracle nothing more serious happened, really, as you say, because if it's disintegrated as much as it certainly looks like it did in that picture, I mean, bearing in mind, obviously, you know, fuel and everything is all stored in the wings, I mean, this could have been a very, very different story, perhaps.
Yes, yeah.
It was,
but the nice thing is, obviously, with the 4-engine aircraft, you've got a lot of redundancy in every respect, not just the engines, but the hydraulics and the fuel systems. Less, it's far from ideal, isn't it?
Agreed. It's a strange story, really. So, well, this is the trouble. It's the only frustrating thing, isn't it, with these things? We very rarely get to hear the final. You know, unless it's of interest to the media at some point later down the line, we very rarely get to hear the final report on what's occurring. On
October the 6th, which was this week, which was actually today.
Yeah.
So this has just come from the AV Herald, Aviation Herald, a fantastic site that most of you will know about. This was today. The BEA released photos of the engine parts they've found on the ground in Greenland, and reported that a few of the engine parts found on the ground have been recovered and are now on their way to the BEA headquarters via the Danish authorities. Another mission to recover remaining engine parts is being organised as and when engine permits. If you take yourself over to the aviationherald.com website, there are actually photos on there of the various parts of the engine cowling and engine parts they have discovered in the snow on here in the snow in Greenland. So take yourselves over there. There's quite some interesting photos.
Mike has actually said that here in the chat room, and a few things worth noting actually that they've been saying here in the chat room. They were talking about the whole 4-engine versus 2-engine sort of thing, and everybody's been Glenn Towler, he said, well, a twin-engine aircraft can fly on only one engine. But again, Mark Harvey's made a good point, and this is the fence. The nervous passenger in me sits on this particular fence, where it's agreed, but they might have a little bit more to worry about if they've only got one engine left. You know, because I mean, obviously you can have several engines fail on a 4-engine, and because they can fly with just one, can't they?
Yeah, and I think the thing to think about here is the amount of redundancy you've got built in, obviously, with a twin-engine aircraft. And let's face it, most transatlantic services are done by twin-engine aircraft, and they're very well regulated, and the engine reliability is absolutely fantastic. Now, we're talking more about pilots' terms and conditions and cabin crew and all the rest of it. We very rarely talk about catastrophic engine failures of any sort now. So the whole reliability is superb. But in this instance, I think it was very fortunate that although the damage looked very bad, it doesn't seem to have done as much collateral damage to the internal systems as that Qantas A380 did back in 2010.
Yeah, I remember seeing the photo when this story obviously broke and the photos were on social media. I remember there was quite a lot of photos on there from passengers showing the engine from through the window outside, which is one of the pictures that's included on the Aviation Herald. And the engine is...
Yeah, I'm just trying to bring those pictures up now.
The engine is covered in kind of a fluid you can see on there. Obviously, when this event happened, they obviously shut the engine down fairly swiftly.
Yeah.
But it would have been quite unnerving, definitely, for the passengers on that flight to look out the window and see what does look quite, as you've probably seen, Nev, quite serious, the damage to the engine.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, sure.
I'm just trying to find these pictures you were talking about, but I'm not really having a lot of joy pulling them up. I found ones of fans in over Greenland on the 6th today. Are they in that story? Are they?
Yeah, it's.
I've got them. Yeah,
Matt's
here
got
we
them
go.
there.
Yeah, here we go. Yeah, so there's some great pictures on here actually.
So those of you watching in the world of YouTube, Matt's got the photos here that I was just talking about earlier.
Just scroll those through. Yeah, absolutely. It's an interesting one, as I say, and there's a picture here, like where they found actually the fan and everything.
Part of it,
part
the fan
of the
blade
airplane,
there.
in the middle of nowhere. It's sort of quite scary, really. As I say, I mean, actually, now that we've got the Jeff back here, I mean, we're. I suppose we don't know we don't know at this stage, obviously, what caused such an awful thing as this engine failure with this A380, but. You know, any suggestions as to what could have possibly happened?
The rollout event comes several weeks after Rolls-Royce achieved type certification for the Trent 1000-10, the engine selected by Singapore Airlines. Boeing first flew the first... Oh, wait a minute. Did you guys finish the article?
Yeah. We may have moved on a little bit.
You didn't stop the show? My apologies. I don't know what happened. The power went off in the entire house, and it was just like pitch black.
Oh dear.
Oh
dear.
Took a while for everything to recover. Sorry.
No, not at all. Not at all. Yeah, we were just talking about the A380 and
the Air France A380. The engine issue. There's, if you go over to the Aviation Herald, Jeff, which is a site I know you love to use on the show, and there's some pictures on there. Fresh pictures of the parts that have been found in the snow in Greenland, and which you can probably make out most of the parts, which is mostly engine cowling, and there's also, I think there's a fan blade there as well.
I mean, it looks almost like something blew out, doesn't it? It's like, you know, I mean, early reports they were saying things like bird strikes and that, weren't they, as a possible cause
height? At that height. I mean, that was flight level 370. That's 37,000 feet.
Yeah.
But you know, obviously at the Greenland, I think that's one of those. Is it? If I'm right in saying, Jeff, Greenland's one of those designated, landing points for aircraft traveling that particular route.
I don't recall ever using Greenland as a possible alternate at all when I used to fly in the Air Force over the North Atlantic. But you know, it's been so many years. You know, maybe it is. Captain Nick would probably have the answer to that, but I don't believe so.
He's usually got an answer for everything, let's be honest, Captain.
Well, that's true. It may not be right. But.
yeah, absolutely. Indeed.
So we're going to move on to the last story in the news segment for this week. Nev, it's a happy news story, I think, really, after
it is,
the devastation.
And they need it, don't they? And this is in the telegraph.co.uk, and it's all about St Martin's Princess Juliana International Airport, which is famous for its proximity to the beach, which sees aircraft swoop within spitting distance of sunseekers and plane spotters. It's going to reopen this month after being damaged in the recent hurricanes. And KLM will restart its twice-weekly services from Amsterdam Schiphol Airport to the Caribbean hub with a stopover in Curacao on October the 29th. And Winair, who are based in St Martin as well, is expected to resume its regular services to Saba, St Bart's and St Kitts from October the 6th, which is today, with the potential for other destinations to be added. The carrier will also operate special commercial and repatriation flights between Curacao and St Martin on October 5th, 7th and 10th. St Martin suffered severe damage during recent hurricanes, with buildings flattened and infrastructure decimated. On September the 30th, it was estimated that the airport would not be restored to all its glory for another 35 weeks, but would be functioning optimally sooner than that, according to the country's Minister of Tourism. The entire airport perimeter fencing was destroyed, and all 4 jet bridges sustained substantial structural damage.
Has he been drinking again?
Yeah, well, I think whoever writes this is not intending for people to read it out loud.
Right,
I think that's what it is. And the swing cabs were blown off all 4 bridges, and all the metal entrance doors attached between the bridges and the terminal building were blown in. All runway and taxiway lights and precision approach path indicators were destroyed. The shoulders and a section of the runway were underwater. The majority of the roof was destroyed in the terminal building, exposing the terminal to outdoor elements, with water found on all 4 levels, the website added. Princess Juliana has been rated as one of the world's scariest and scenic airport landings. With its flight approach being over water, pilots must make regular instrument checks to ensure the correct altitude is maintained. Takeoff involves a U-turn to avoid the mountains that loom large at the end of the runway. You can tell a high-quality journalist has written this, can't you? Maho Beach has become a popular spot from which to observe approaching aircraft, and tourists are sometimes swept off their feet and injured by passing planes. Well, it's good news, isn't it? Because this is obviously a major holiday destination for all sorts of people, and it is a key entrance to this part of the world. And I'm very glad to hear that things are improving quicker than they expected.
It's just occurred to me that I need to spool through our tapes from previous shows, because I seem to recall when Captain Al was last on, I seem to recall there being a bet wagered over the speed at which this airport was going to be sort of brought back into action. And I need to see if anybody owes anybody any money, I think.
I remember looking at the photos when these went on, I think it was Sky News, the pictures that they played on there of the airport, and it was really, really just decimated the airport. And all the jet bridges and that were a mess. The runway was every single part of that airport was a mess.
Really.
So for them to obviously have the airport opened again now is testament to the people there who live on the island. So yeah, well done.
But then, of course, I mean, this is one of the things that they were saying about this whole hurricane thing. I mean, why it's such well, it's always a disaster, but why it was so particularly such a bad thing for these areas is because they rely so heavily on tourism. So if you lose your airport, the only way of these people coming in and out, I mean, it is a serious issue for these, because their entire economy, evolves around tourism. So when you get something like this, people can't fly in and out. Obviously, hotels get damaged and things. Although I notice a lot of the ones on the seafront here are still unaffected, it seems, and sort of functioning. People are still sunbathing and things.
So did the storms that were in the US, did they affect your flying at all, Jeff, when you're doing, obviously, we know you sort of internal flights that you fly mostly with ACME, but did they affect you at all?
The current weather you're talking about?
The storms,
which weather
storms that you had, the hurricanes.
You've had one quite recently again, haven't you? Where it's sort of
Oh, well, there's a storm that is forming in the Gulf of Mexico and is tracking this direction.
Oh.
But as far as I know, as far as tropical storms are concerned, it's been quite quiet since, what was it, Irma? And then what was the other one that came through? I've already forgotten that one. That came through Atlanta. I should know that. Is that Irma? Yeah, it was Irma.
Yeah.
Yeah. But other than that, no. I mean, I was flying that day when it came. It was a tropical storm strength when it came through the Atlanta area, and I took off right before the winds got out of limits for my airplane, and we headed up to Philadelphia. So I kind of avoided really most of it.
Good. Everyone stayed safe.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I know that. I know certainly from the little BFF Twitter chat group that we have here. I know one or two people really sort of struggled to sort of, you know, they've had tough times. It's we're so lucky here in the UK. I mean,
we do moan about the weather a
moan,
heck of a lot.
It is
but
we
don't have to put up with.
pastime.
Yeah, we don't have to put up with.
Hurricanes,
half of the
absolutely.
wind
And
speeds
it's like,
and the snow and stuff.
Yeah,
that,
but as
we
you've
don't-
said before, Carlos, we don't get snow here in the UK. We get
we get
snow.
snow. Yeah, we don't get the whole thing.
We don't get actual snow. You know, we only need like
3
a light
flakes.
dusting of 3 literally
flakes.
a dusting where it's not really even snow. And Norwich near us basically grinds to a complete halt. You know, so it's we're so lucky, really.
Same with Atlanta. That's the same sort of thing that happens here. Occasionally, though, we do actually get a foot or more, but that doesn't happen very often.
I'm not moving here then. I'm going to move to Greenland.
Are you going to move to Greenland?
Yeah.
Right, okay, lovely. I can't see your sun-worshipping wife enjoying Greenland particularly.
Nor can I. I don't think Gemma will be too impressed by that. But there we go.
Absolutely.
So that's where we bring the commercial news segment of the show to a close. So we have got coming up for you next then a very special segment indeed. So Nev, I think it's time for you to introduce said segment.
Thanks, Carlos. Well, as you may have been listening over the last few weeks, I try to do a Nev's passenger experience segment every week, and we talk about what it's like with airports and airlines and services and that kind of stuff. And I thought it might be a bit of fun just to have a chat with somebody who is normally in the driving seat, but of course he's just come back from his holiday in Naples. So I had the chance to speak to Captain Nick Anderson, and in order to get the production value right up there as well, there's some new intro music as well. So I hope Captain Jeff isn't too offended by us borrowing one of his co-hosts for the evening.
Not at all. Happy to do it.
Here we go.
Right.
Then.
Hello everyone, and welcome to another Nev's Passenger Experience. Well, this week I'm speaking with a very good friend of ours, Captain Nick Anderson. Nick and his wife Gilly recently went on a trip to Naples for their 40th wedding anniversary. Sadly though, as I wasn't invited along, I interviewed Nick via Skype when he came home. We talked about many things to do with his British Airways flight, and in the week where Monarch has been put into administration, it was quite pertinent that we spoke about the airlines and their running costs. I began by asking Nick what it was like being a passenger on the BA service.
Well, I don't have no objection at all. I actually really quite like being chauffeured around. I've done lots of deadheading flights on my own airline and on plenty of others. And I'm not one of these guys that, grips the edges of his seat and wants to get up there and fly it myself because I don't trust the crews. No, I have enormous trust. Obviously, more with the established carriers than others. I no need to name names, but there are some airlines that I would probably balk at and go, why are we booking ourselves on this? But no, I have usually a very relaxed attitude towards sitting in the back.
Well, I assume that you were, when you went to Naples recently, you were in business class up the front and you had the caviar and the champagne. Surely I can't be wrong.
Absolutely wrong. I mean, I'm a poor airline pilot. Don't get me wrong. I despise wasting money on frivolous things on a journey that's going to take a couple of hours. Now, if I can get something for nothing, then I'm there first to the queue. but I certainly don't expect any kind of upgrade, and I don't even ask for one, quite honestly. And I would have feel quite upset had my lovely lady who booked and planned the whole holiday booked us in anything other than the cheap seats down the back. So no, I mean, we weren't even expecting necessarily to sit at with each other, because Gilly said, "Oh, the travel agent can't arrange us for us to sit to each other, and it'll cost an extra 30 quid or something." So I said, "Well, it's only our 40th wedding anniversary treat, darling. The fact that we don't sit together means nothing." I didn't exactly say that, but you know what I'm going. I'm saying, well, it's only two and a bit hours. I think we can probably manage to be apart for that.
Now, we've had a lot of negative responses recently about some of the BA economy service. How did you find it? What was it like?
I suspect if you were a regular traveller and had stepped down from what used to be available, then you would probably balk at the new, system. You probably feel like, oh, that's cheap and nasty. But actually, I thought the experience was quite reasonable. My biggest complaint when it came to the service was just the length of time it took the two cabin crew to get down the end of a A320. Now, an A320 is not a big airplane. I'm trying to think of what row I was in, probably 30-something, and there were like 5 rows behind me. So we're talking the equivalent of perhaps a business section, or perhaps half of the economy section on, not even that, on my aircraft. But I know that my cabin crew on my airline can get a full meal service in and out in 2 hours. And I was a bit surprised that it took nearly 2 hours of our flight for the BA crew to get back to my seat, let alone the 5 behind me. And if you're sitting there, thinking, well, I'd like to have a cup of coffee and a sandwich or something, then it's a bit disappointing to find that you've actually only got 20 minutes of the flight left to gulp your coffee and chew through your sandwich before they're already coming around asking for the bits and bobs to tidy the cabin up.
Yeah,
so,
we had exactly the same when we went to Santorini a few months ago. And the main problem is, of course, you can only pay for this stuff by your credit card or Avios points. Cash is not an option for this transaction, and therefore the whole thing becomes very laborious. I'm not surprised that it took the time that it did. It does. It's a bit of a shame, really, isn't it? Because it just spoils the experience somewhat.
Well, it's a lot easier when you can just say tea or coffee, chicken or beef, and throw out the meals. You're right. Having to go through the purchasing process for each passenger is a nightmare for them. And by the looks of the piece of kit that they had to use, it wasn't a simple, click, swipe the card and off you go. It was slow. It took some time to recognize and identify the information I typed in and the PIN, much longer than you'd expect at, say, a restaurant. And so the whole process was just kind of held back by that. I think they, seriously, if they're going to adopt this profile or this way of working, they're going to need a slightly more streamlined system. The one thing I can't complain at, though, of course, is the standard of the food. No curly British Rail sandwiches. When you go to M&S, they're a great brand, and they seem to maintain their standards on board the aircraft. So, we didn't go overboard and ask for a 3-course meal, but a nice farmhouse bread, cheese and pickle sandwich and a cup of tea was, very palatable. It wasn't too bad at all. You slightly balk at the price, which, for a couple of sandwiches and a couple of drinks was over a tenner. But, I've paid worse, and it hasn't been at 35,000 feet in the air.
I think the other thing is we're talking about this in the week that we've just had a major airline collapse. And, of course, all of the airlines are trying to reduce their costs. So this is BA's way, I guess, of reducing their costs. And we all used to enjoy the cooked breakfast on the shuttle services up and down the country years ago. How do you think that airlines are going to continue? Because clearly this kind of model that Monarch has had, for example, hasn't worked for them. And I just wonder what the alternatives would be. It's
a difficult one, isn't it? Because you've got a service as a major airline with a large short-haul routes structure. You've got to service a lot of airfields, which means you're putting out a great number of flights. Now, to match a proper low-cost carrier, you're going to have to trim that down to the absolute bare bones, because there's no way that an established airline like BA, with a standard to maintain, can trim their prices down to compete directly with a real low-cost carrier. So they've got to produce something slightly better to justify the cost. And I don't think a lot of people are currently in the frame of mind to pay that extra for what is effectively only a couple of hours on the aircraft, and that's all the way out to the heel of Italy. It's a really difficult one, and I'm just so disappointed that Monarch couldn't hang in there. But to a certain extent, and reading a lot of the financial pundits who are giving opinions, it was almost inevitable. They did their best, and they have done extremely well for nigh on 50 years. It's heartbreaking for me to see an airline of that sort of established street cred and established history go down. I think it's dreadful, but that is the way of things at the moment. People just look at the bottom price. They don't even think about the costs of adding suitcases on or anything else. They just look at the base figure. And that, to a certain extent, I think, is what BA is doing, and it's quite sensible. They're saying, right, well, let's give them a base figure. Having said that, I don't know if my suitcase I had to pay for or was included, quite honestly, because Jilly paid the bill.
Do you think that there is the market for what I would call the premium economy customer on a short-haul sector?
Only if your company is going to pay for it, or you've got a bit of money where you really are willing to pay to sit at the front of the airplane. And I don't know if the passenger base is large enough to be able to sell enough seats with that in mind. So I'm really not sure. I think the success of the true low-cost carriers has demonstrated that anything other than their model is currently not good. I mean, there may eventually be a reaction. I think in a lot of cases there has been a reaction against some of the rather dubious selling tactics that are employed on the low-cost carriers, and that has helped the people who really want to make it a comfortable and nice service, a nice flight, a bit of a boost. But that's only temporary. And I think over the next few years, as we get pinched a bit more in the UK, moving up and possibly through Brexit until we get an established economy on the far side and we know where we're going, everybody's watching their pockets and their pounds and their loose change even. And if you can get to Italy for your holiday using just loose change, then that's what you'll probably do.
So what about the BA check-in process, Nick? How was that for you?
It was a little bit bemusing, actually. I'm quite used to swiping my passport and moving through and throwing my bag at the young lady there, but their system is kind of a bit like the Borg has got in. So they've been assimilated. And what used to be quite an easy to understand process, I think they've made overly complicated. And it's so complicated, of course, that they have to have quite a large number of helpers around at both the initial check-in with your boarding pass, getting through those gates, photo ID, all that stuff, and then checking your bag and getting your bag tag on. There's people hovering around to make sure you don't mess up. And there's an awful lot of passengers sort of getting to the point where they're about to press the button and dispatch their suitcase into the labyrinth that exists behind the check-in area, and they're looking at each other going, have we done this right? Dare we do this? Because where's my suitcase going to go if I've made a mistake? And therein lies, I think, a bit of a problem. If you've invented a system that is so complicated, you need to have reassuring assistance from a helper, a BA helper, to make sure you haven't screwed up. And that's what everyone's fear is that, oh my God, the first time I've done this, what's going to happen? Then you defeated your own objective. So I think they probably should have stuck to a slightly more conventional system, left the automation to the BA check-in staff, so it just makes their job easier and quicker and they can get through more passengers. Because if you've got to have them there anyway, let them do the job, let them smile at the passengers and make it feel like a personal service instead of the way they've gone, which is rather too automated for my liking.
Yes, certainly. Somebody that I interviewed on this series a while ago said that he had noticed that some elderly people were turning up a day before they actually were due to fly to do a recce to make sure they knew what to do. Now, if that's happening, then we've lost, haven't we? Really.
Absolutely, yes. I think the people who designed the system, they sold a bit of snake oil. It's like the monorail on The Simpsons. They've got a fast-talking, great salesman in there who says this system's going to be wonderful. But I don't think, from the passenger's point of view, it's really working.
Automation seems to be the name of the game. If it's not in the cockpit, then it's certainly in the check-in area, isn't it?
No, exactly right. But my feeling is the automation ought to be there to help the staff, not there to confuse the passenger.
Absolutely, Nick. Well, thanks ever so much indeed for talking to me today. Really appreciate it.
No trouble at all.
Find this and other great shows at the Aviation Media Network.
TheVoicesInYourHead.com.
The Plain Talking UK podcast is a voluntary project that aims to keep you informed with the latest aviation-related stories from newswires across the globe.
Producing our content does cost money though. If you enjoy our show, why not help us keep on the air by making a donation towards the server and website hosting fees through PayPal. Any contributions would be greatly appreciated.
Are you an Amazon user? If so, why not do your shopping through the link on our website? There's no cost to yourself and Amazon pay us a small referral fee on qualifying purchases.
To find out more about the show and to meet the team, take yourself to our website www.plaintalkinguk.com
or find us on Facebook at facebook.com/plaintalkinguk, on Twitter via @plaintalkinguk, or get in touch via email on podcast@plaintalkinguk.com. Thanks for listening.
Flybe 5823 Trent Dane for 23 Manchester, Wizz Air 6X, climb flight level 210, direct to Bretlands Park. United 123, maintain 280 knots. London 2DME, turn right onto Bravo, link, 21 join Alpha, hold at Mora, Speedbird 472, LOC/DME, approach runway 27 left, follow the green stand 544.
That's enough air traffic control for today, Nat. Bedtime.
Have you ever wondered what it would be like to fly a commercial passenger jet? Looked up at the sky and thought, I wish that was me? Well, now anyone has the chance to have a go at flying in a real aircraft simulator. NP Simulations and Flight Experience London, the only official Boeing licensed product of its kind in the UK, offer you the chance to fly anywhere in the world in their fixed-base Boeing 737-800 flight simulator. And that's not all. Ground School London offers many different courses for the up-and-coming pilot looking for a start in aviation. With prices starting at just £109, the sky's the limit. So for the ultimate flight simulator experience, or engaging preparatory courses, including those for schools and colleges, check out the websites at www.london.flightexperience.co.uk and www.groundsschoollondon.com, or call on 020 300 40 616. NP Simulations. Fly your dreams.
Wow. Well.
Nev, fantastic passenger experience there, sir.
Oh, I just asked the questions, and no, Nick's contribution was superb. And it was a great perspective, wasn't it? Just to see what it's like for him going
as an
through
airline
what
pilot,
everybody else is going through, rather than being in his nice, comfortable, fluffy seat up the front.
Well, indeed, a comfortable, fluffy seat. What?
Well, Some of them are, anyway.
Yeah, well, there is that. Well, I've got this image of Captain Nick putting like a seat cover on now when he gets into, into the front of his
It's a well-known fact that all pilots have fluffy seats.
Is it?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Certainly, actually, Boeing aircraft tend to, don't they? Not about
Captain Jeff is shaking his head.
I'll have a look at that.
But I think the Mad Dog has a leather seat.
Oh, does it? Oh, a bit of quality,
A bit of quality.
Yes. Yeah.
I don't know what Mad Dogs you've been looking at, Carlos.
Well, there is that. Yes.
Well, mine has a board. It's just a bare wooden, like a bench.
Right. Nice.
It doesn't even have a seat back.
Right. Okay. Well, that's
basic.
That's delightful. Yes.
A deck chair.
A deck chair. Absolutely.
With a windbreak.
Absolutely. Sounds very comfortable.
Oh dear. I tell it honestly. I know people mock the Mad Dog so many times on APG, and everyone always goes on about how decrepit and old and everything the Mad Dog. But do you know what? It's outlasted a lot of other airliners.
Yep.
You know, and it's still flying now.
Outlasted the 747. Yeah.
Well, it probably will do. You know, it just goes to show. It must be made of damn good
stuff.
Bolster
No, it's
wood.
all about the quality.
It's the same. Yeah, the same company that built the venerable DC-3, and those things are still flying as well.
Yeah, true. Very true.
Douglas
Very true.
makes a very, very robust and sturdy machine.
Isn't it nice to be able to talk about your aeroplane without other people like dissing it, Jeff? It must be lovely.
Oh, that's okay. I'm used to it. I don't care.
It's all part of the fun.
You wait. In a few months' time, Jeff will be pulling up in his nice, shiny, brand new 767.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
What a treat.
I don't know about new, Carlos, but
shiny.
Yeah, shiny. Yeah,
shiny, maybe.
Yeah, absolutely. Nicely
from all the
buffed.
oil.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, Nev, you have you obviously last week you were at the Audio Visual Awards ceremony, and there was not just audio visual awardy stuff going on. There was some aviation-y stuff going on.
Only Sir Nev could combine his love of aviation with an AV Awards dinner. I mean, it's a real skill. I'll give you that.
Yeah, it was obviously a bit of a shame because I was looking forward to being on the show last week, but it was our annual award. So 1,200 people turn up at the Grosvenor House Hotel in London, which is one of the biggest hotels there, and it's the only venue that can take 1,200 people for a sit-down dinner and banquet and all this sort of stuff. So I was with my colleagues there, my industry colleagues, as I like to say, and a very good evening was had by all. Saturday and Sunday was a little vague, I have to say.
Right, okay.
That's of my own making. But what really surprised me was during the evening, in between the various courses of food, there was this blimp that started to come around us in the auditorium environment, or where the banquet was being held, rather. And it had a couple of GoPro cameras attached to it, and it was being projected onto the really nice LED walls that we've got there. Because if the AV Awards can't do AV properly, then there's something wrong, isn't there?
Although I have to say, with that in mind, I do recall a few things that appear in that AV disasters thing. That one or two comments made about sort of inappropriate mic-ing, shall we say?
Yes. Yeah. We're not going to talk about that.
No, okay,
because
all right.
That's the subject of some ongoing discussion.
With
the production company.
Okay, good. Right. Okay, my apologies.
It wasn't their finest hour. Let's say.
No. Okay.
But
anyway, back to
in
the
terms
blimp.
of the visuals, can't complain about it at all. Really good.
No, indeed. So let's just run this little video here that you sent us, and it's. So
what really interested me was how controllable this thing was, and I'm going to try and get an interview with the guys that provided this. I think because it might make quite an interesting segment. But it was spectacular, and with the the stabilised GoPro cameras on, it gave a very good image on the screens as well. Really nice.
Is it sort of like I dread to use the word helium because obviously you hear the word helium and blimps and everyone gets a bit nervous. But I mean, what is it that is what's inside it that's making it sort of float?
It must be something that's lighter than air, mustn't it?
Well,
otherwise, it would have a controllability problem, I think.
Yeah,
but it was very well controlled. And there's got a lot of big chandeliers in that hotel area, and there's the opportunity for hitting some something was quite
quite
high, I would imagine. But the guys who were flying it did a really nice job, and they brought it down to quite low levels as well. It was really interesting. So I managed to get my aviation fix, even at the AV Awards.
Do you know what? I'm looking at that, Nev, and I'm just thinking to myself, I want one of those here.
Absolutely.
For those moments when you after a long day, you sit down on the sofa and you forget that the remote control is the other end of the room. Yeah. Well, in this situation, just send your blimp across the front room, pick up the remote control, and bring it back to you.
Yeah, works for me.
The main man, Micah, has got a very good point here. You can't spell the word aviation without AV, which I think is a very good point.
Very true.
Exactly. That's very good. Yeah, absolutely. That's what they call on point, I think.
So it looks like you had fun anyway, Nev.
It was good, very good indeed, and I'm glad we haven't got another one for another year. I don't think our livers could take it, frankly.
Oh dear. Okay. Well, before we start to wrap up, because I'm afraid that is what needs to do.
Getting close to the end.
We are,
but we have got some more new. Well, it's about a meet-up actually. That's happening here in the UK. So that's the meet-up for the APG meet-up at the Goodwood Aerodrome.
Yes.
That's on Sunday the 29th of October. Kick-off's at 2 p.m. and it's being organised by Ruben Wells. If you want to find out more info on the meetup, check out the APG Twitter feed and Facebook. You can find out more details on there. Me and Matt are going to be travelling down to Goodwood on the day, so we're going to be travelling down there to meet up with all you guys. Hopefully, I'm hoping that a few of you who are in the chat room now might be able to make it down to Goodwood Aerodrome. It is the other end of the earth for us, but it's a trip we're going to make, aren't we, Matt?
Yeah, absolutely.
Captain Nick's going to be there, along with lots of APG followers, and hopefully a few PTUK followers as well.
You never know. We might get lucky. Yeah.
I know. So that's on the 29th of October. So you've got a few weeks to plan for that.
Yep.
And as we said, that's at the Goodwood Aerodrome, which is it's the other side of London.
Yeah.
It's
not too bad.
Yeah.
It's only about 3 hours.
It's only about 3 hours, yeah. And also, for all our listeners, don't forget we have, I think we have 3 places left.
My goodness me, really.
For the 200th show, our 200th show next year in January. Well, it's going to be an absolutely epic show. That's for sure. Yeah. So if you want to join us on the 20th of January, if you're a UK listener or anywhere in the world, actually, and you want to fly into the UK on the 20th of January and join us at MP Simulations in London for the day. We're going to have a live show from there and hopefully have some APGers Skyping in as well. Hopefully, if Jeff's there, we can get him to Skype in. Or possibly, if we win the lottery between now and then, we can fly Jeff in as a special guest host.
He's shaking his head.
But for those of you,
take that as a no.
For those of you who can join us there on the day, you are going to get the chance to fly the Boeing 737-800 sim, and you'll get the chance to fly anywhere in the world.
That is the long and the short of it. Why spaces are very limited, obviously, because we've only got a small time frame for everybody to do. And we've got to put.
But everyone will get a chance.
But everybody who's on the list will get a chance to do the same. We've literally only got a couple of spaces left. So if you would like to join us, you need to hurry up and get your request in now, because we are, as I say, rapidly running out of space.
And don't forget, this is a 100% Boeing licensed simulator. It is as real as it gets. It is fantastic. Both me and Matt and Nev and Owen have all had the chance to fly
Nev,
this.
you had a sort of an extended go, because you ended up being a guinea pig, I think, actually, didn't you, for one of their new training guys?
They were training a new first officer, and they wanted a student pilot, so I took the controls for almost a couple of hours, actually, which was really, really nice. But just like Jeff says when he gets out of the simulator, although this is not a full motion sim, this is a fixed base simulator, but as someone that doesn't do this thing ever, I got out of there, I was very tired, and you can imagine what it's like going through this sort of stuff every 6 months when every emergency in the book is thrown at you, and all I was doing was just flying a fairly regular, a perfectly functioning aircraft, as it were. So but it's a great experience and tuition is fantastic as well. The guys that run it down, they do a very nice job. So you will enjoy yourselves if you're coming, that's for sure.
Yeah, big thanks again while we're on that subject. Nick and Paul down at MP Simulations, they've really have pulled out the stops for us for our 200. So big thanks to them.
If you can't make it there on the day, don't worry. We are going to stream a live show there.
Yeah,
we intend to make it as interactive as humanly possible. Some fancy new kit has been sort of winging its way to me here, which I hope I can use to its full potential to sort of give a real interactive feel to it. So if you're not able to make it to the actual show, then make sure you're watching live, because as I say, we've got a few special treats up our sleeve for it. So I mean, obviously you've had quite a lot of simulator time, I assume, Jeff. I mean, is it something that you ever enjoyed? I mean, or is it just you lost the love for it?
I can't recall many times at all where I really had a good time in a simulator, because it's always been in an environment where you're being trained and you're under high pressure, back in the Air Force, or when I was an instructor pilot and I was trying to teach students, and it was never fun. And now in the airline world, it's just a matter of going in there and taking care of all the various maneuvers that you need to fly, and the various line-oriented flying training scenarios that you can cram in, and it's just, as Nev just mentioned, it's just exhausting. It's exhausting.
Yeah, I bet.
And I really haven't had a chance just to go in there and spend a couple of hours just fooling around and flying under bridges and that kind of stuff.
Actually,
in fact, you know what? The most fun that I've ever had in a sim was when I was at Farnborough last year, and Pip invited me into the Hawker 700, 800 simulator, whatever it was, and that was a lot of fun because we were fooling around. I could see where it would be a fun thing to do.
For the rest of us, yes, us humble mere mortals, of course, having a go with the simulator is just like playing it's that computer game you used to play as a kid, but on steroids, isn't it? I mean, it's that sort of thing.
Actually, Jeff, just on that subject of simulators and stuff, obviously in the UK. Don't break everything, Matt. Oops. In the UK, we've obviously got various
was
places.
that new piece of kit that he was talking about?
Yeah, that would be the new piece of kit. Yeah. It's now in about 5 pieces on the floor.
Oh no!
Nev's got his head in his hands. Oh dear.
Are there any companies in the US, Jeff, that allow the members of the public to go in and kind of have a go at flying a sim for a cost?
Oh, I'm sure of it. I just can't recall exactly where they are, but I've heard of a few of these places in various cities around the country where, I don't know how. I don't think they're cheap, but you can go in there and spend an hour or two, or I'm not sure even what the time frame is, but they have those kind of places here as well.
Awesome.
And that's one of the things that's so special about our 200 show, because this is an opportunity for people to come and have a sort of, to come and help us celebrate our 200th, essentially. So,
and I'd definitely want to help you celebrate your 200th, and it would be a blast if I could actually be there in person. But if I can't, I promise you I'll be there on Skype.
Ah, fantastic!
Awesome,
You're good, man. Good. Now, as we're talking big birthdays, or not birthdays,
300th.
Yes. Now, there's been some very frightening pictures doing the rounds on Twitter. I'm not going to lie. I think some of them have been done by Captain Nick. that are sort of, well, I mean, one or two of them are certainly mentally scarring. They are images that will haunt me for most of my remaining time here. I mean, are there plans afoot for the 300th? Do you have a plan?
Well, first of all, I have to say that people have said that these things have been photoshopped, and there's no photoshopping involved at all. And I can understand why you would be, pretty scared when you see me without my shirt.
I know. It's just it's an image that will haunt me for the rest of my days. It was, Dr. Steph's. I believe you. It probably wasn't photoshopped.
No, I think that's the only one that really is believable. That's Dr. Steph.
Yeah, absolutely. But so is there anything you can tell us yet, or is it all still big secrets under wraps? I assume you are planning
what the
something.
Heck? Why not? I don't know if we never have any planning meetings, and so I'm not sure if I'm at liberty. Wait a minute, it's my show. I can say what I want.
Say what you like. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
It's not my show. It's our show, and but I think that my co-host would be okay with me divulging maybe some of the details, not all of them, because I don't know if we know all of them yet. But we are going to celebrate our 300th episode on the weekend, basically the Thanksgiving, the U.S. holiday celebration of Thanksgiving this year, that weekend. So Thanksgiving's always on a Thursday.
Yep.
So the Saturday and Sunday right after Thanksgiving holiday here in the U.S., that Saturday, I believe. Yeah. I think I'm right about that. So that Saturday or Sunday, sometime that weekend, we're going to be gathering over at a certain APG crew member's house in the Atlanta area, not mine.
Okay.
And we're going to have a big party and celebration, and of course we'll have a live show as well.
Cool.
Oh,
Okay.
brilliant.
Well, if we're in the lottery between now and then, obviously we'll come and join you as well. But
come on over, yeah, sure.
Come on over.
Yeah, I'll let you use my buddy passes, and who knows if you'll make it over, and if you do, you probably won't make it back. But if that's not a problem, you're more than happy to give it a try. Seriously. I think if you guys want to use my buddy passes, you're welcome to.
I think the access to the joint account, Gemma is upstairs, so she can't hear me.
Absolutely. Oh, well, no, it sounds good. But thanks for that, Jeff. Look forward to catching the event. It's aiming for Saturday the 25th. Nick has confirmed. So yes, it's all very good.
The Saturday, okay.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's.
Captain Nick should be on. He should be telling you what's going on. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, absolutely.
I never know what's going on.
Yeah, what's this? Is the best show in the? It's the best show in the UK. Would make a good venue for PT UK. Ooh, where's that? Which show is this? Sorry, they're obviously talking about some air show.
They're busy chatting in the.
Oh, are they? They're chatting amongst themselves. Sorry, ignore me. Yes.
Yeah, they're talking about the PT UK. I thought.
Oh, are they? Oh,
the best show in the UK.
No, they can't be talking about us. That I am pretty sure. But anyway, there we are. So, look, guys, it is. I'm afraid time to bring the show to a close. Thank you very much for joining us, Sir Captain Jeff. It's been a real pleasure to have you on, and it's that's it.
Yeah. That is where we're going to bring the show to a close. But before we go, social media plugs, as always.
That, yeah. Every time I try and wrap up,
social media plugs, Mr. Matt.
Yes. Yeah.
Where can people find out about?
Well, unless you've been living under a stone,
on a T-shirt,
you'll be very, very aware. Obviously, there's a certain show website, and we're busy selling our T-shirts. Sorry, you're asking me to do stuff while I'm operating cameras. It's not working. This is it. So
multitasking.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a bloke. I can't do that at all. But yes, so if you want to get in touch with the show, it is plaintalkinguk.com, www.plaintalkinguk.com. It is on Facebook. We are facebook.com/plaintalkinguk, and our Twitter handle is @plaintalkinguk. We love to get your audio feedback, or just a letter. Just tell us all about it. It's podcast@plaintalkinguk, and you can really send anything you like to that email address. Obviously family friendly. We couldn't possibly have that because this is a family show, ladies and gentlemen. Family show, that's oh, you mended it then.
Yeah,
well done. Yes. Yes, if quality T-shirts in our shop are still available, being modelled by the lovely Mr. Matt Caton there. So they are Fruit of the Loom T-shirts with an embroidered logo on the front, and then we've got screen printing with the Plain Talking UK stuff on the back. They are great T-shirts, and it's all
awesome.
Of fun. So obviously,
Jeff,
unless they're stuck under a stone, Jeff, where might they be able to get hold of your marvellous offering?
Oh, well, you can go to our wonderful website, airlinepilotguy.com, and there you'll be able to find out, different ways to watch and listen to the show. Social media at APG Crew will hit all of the crew members. And my individual Twitter ID is Airline Pilot Guy, all one word. And we also have a presence on Facebook as well. Airline Pilot Guy.
Any plugging that you need to do, Sir Nev, obviously?
I've got my own website, which is nevtech.org.uk, and the company I work for, a proper job as it were, is Feltech, feltech.co.uk. And next week's Nev's passenger experience is myself in London Heathrow Terminal 5 with another industry colleague. This time Luke Marlerhausen talks to me about his flying around the world.
Fantastic. So that really is where we bring the show to a close. Thank you very much, Jeff, for joining us at the last minute there. Much appreciated.
Oh, yes.
And, that's it.
It was my pleasure.
So from all of us here in the studio, it is time to say goodbye. Everybody say goodbye.
Bye.
See you. Bye.
Bye-bye.